Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Digital Filmmaking 301, Cinematography 2. This evening is week two's go-to session, and week two is lighting for tone. So the discussion was about lighting for tone this week, and the shooting project is the lighting for tone worksheet, which is an experiment in key light placement and the resulting shadows, tonal values, and uh, traits that can help us tell story. For instance, the mood of the lighting based on placement. So I've gotten a fair number of inquiries about how to approach this and what the learning opportunities are for this exercise. So I thought I'd just take the opportunity this evening and just talk a little bit about what this assignment is about. So you've had a little bit of this in lighting one when you started talking about three-point lighting and where to put the key light, where to put the fill light, where to put the edge lights, and we gave you a basic starting point, the three-point lighting basic starting point. The key light 45 degrees off of the camera, the fill light on the opposite side of camera, and 50% of the key light, and the backlight on the low side or the high side, depending on what you like, but predominantly on the low side. And we kind of left you there. And then in lighting two, of course, we explored themes for our lighting, comedy, horror, sci-fi, action, and drama. And we played around a little bit with where to put the lights and how to derive these emotions or these this feedback from the lighting subconsciously by moving the lights around, changing their positions. But we really didn't do an intensive look at the degree of change and the amount through which we can perceive the change in the key light in the feelings or emotions that can be generated by just moving that key light around and seeing how it renders your subject in your subject's space, your performance space. Now, this is also a good exercise because as you may have come to realize now, as you're working with actresses and models, your friends or family members who are helping you out and offering themselves as subjects for you to film and to light, you're starting to notice that sometimes, you know, the formula or the standard placement of your lights might not work for the type of individual that you have in front of the lens. Some folks' faces are wider, some folks' faces are narrower, some folks have very striking profiles. Some people have very flat profile. Some people are light featured, light skin or light hair. Some people are dark featured, dark skin or dark hair. All of these things can start to dictate where the best place for your key light's going to be. So the whole point of this exercise is to go ahead and move it and look at it each time that you move the key light into a new position. Look at what it's doing to your subject. Okay, and the idea is to, you know, have your subject in the middle of your set and then have your key light go all the way around the subject and see what the resulting contrast is, what the resulting shape is that's being suggested by that new key light position. Right now, for instance, you can see me, I'm lit in the office and I've got, you know, I got a couple of different sources of fill depending on how I turn my head. I've got a key light 45 degrees off camera axis, and I've got some sort of small amount of fill coming from over here, and I got a backlight. You know, you can sort of pick up a little bit of that back here. But if I start turning that stuff off one by one and showing you, you know, what's going to happen, you know, right now I'm just in my key light. So am I, when I'm half lit, what is that, what mood is that suggesting? If I turn into my key and I'm more fully lit, what does the resulting shape and contrast do with a key light that's now basically pointed straight at me, but I've turned 45 degrees away from the camera? Well, that's sort of the same thing. If you're looking straight ahead and you move the key light from here to here to here, you're going to see things like the hot side and the low side, what's happening. Do I get a Rembrandt style if I look straight ahead? Do I get a half light if I look slightly away from my key? If I look into my key, do I have shape? Do I have, umbra or transition lines here? Are they soft? Are they hard? These are the types of things that we want to look at as we start to develop our lighting education. And this is one of the big priorities of a director of photography or a cinematographer, is to at least make his desires known to his chief lighting technician or his gaffer, so that that gaffer can then go ahead and use his knowledge of key light placements and his information from the DP and make sure that he gets the right rendering. Do I need to be, in shadow? Do I have to have, am I pensive? Am I listless? Am I concealing the truth? Am I turning away from my light, thereby turning away from my safety or salvation? Or am I looking into my light? What feelings do I get from that? What do those feelings work in tandem with the written word in the script to convey meaning? So when you go to the I think it's the I'm sorry, not language of the lens, but the lighting for tone worksheet. Whoops, you can sort of see that in the very first graphic, which is asking you to place a subject at the center of your shooting space. Put your camera at what would be, say, 6 o'clock, and you're going to shoot in all of these points on the compass or on the clock, right? These are your cardinal points: south, east, north, west, or 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and midnight. Okay, and over here you'll see you're going to have 3 elevations on your key light. You're going to want a low angle shooting up at your subject, and we're going to see what that looks like from each of these positions. And then an eye level key light and an above eye level key light. Each of these 3 elevations from each of these points on the compass. Okay, not every tick of the clock, but midnight and 1 o'clock certainly. These are back key positions, and they're going to give you some interesting results. Side light positions at 3 and 9, and of course your front key position at 6, and your off-axis keys at 5 and 7 are going to represent your more traditional key light positions. And you're going to want to choose a lens that's somewhere around 75, 85 millimeters. So I've given you this Z-value converter if you're using the kit zoom lens that came with your camera. So you want to be, in terms of Z-value, you want to be somewhere between 60 and 65 on the Z scale. Okay, so pick a medium length telephoto. So you're going to get a frame that is something like this is going to work best for you. You don't want this to be too wide, because then you're going to get your lights in the shot, or you're going to force your lighting setup to expand and get bigger than what you really need. So just do what we call, this is called 2 T's right here. It's a loose choker. Okay, it's a loose close-up. Okay, it's not quite a medium shot. It's not quite a close-up, right? It's a loose close-up. Okay, so that's a good working size for you. All right, and what we want you to do is move that key light around and start looking at the resulting results. See how you feel about it, because there's going to be certain positions where that key light makes a lot of sense when you consider some of the, for instance, lighting themes that we covered in lighting 2, for instance. You might find that the backlight seems real suitable for certain kinds of feelings, like scary or clinical, sci-fi, or horror. You might find that the low angles look better for horror than they do above eye level, and you might find the direct elevations to be, maybe a little too flat for anything other than comedy. But you can certainly see what happens when you start moving them around, right? What am I going to start looking like when that key starts moving around? All right, so pick a subject that is willing to sit still for, probably a couple hours. In all honesty, probably 2.5 hours. Uh, do it in a workable space where you're not going to be tripping over your gear, tripping over cords. Where you have enough room to maneuver your light, and you only need one light now. You don't need a fill light. You don't need an edge light unless you want one. You can see what happens when I turn my fill light off. It's a little contrasting, kind of blocky, and there is the rim's kind of nice to be there, but you don't have to do that. You only need one light. Okay, so but select a shooting space where you can move that one light around efficiently and properly. Okay, and so the camera doesn't have to move, your subject doesn't have to move. The only thing that really needs to move is your one light, your key light. Okay, you're going to take video because the worksheet's asking for stills, and you're going to derive those from your video. You're going to use screen grab or whatever makes you comfortable to extract a still image from your video. But importantly, it's good to see how your subject moves in space. You see how my edge light is very subtle here if I'm looking into my key light, but when I turn away from my key, I become what's called long lit here, and you can see my edge light takes on a different dynamic. Okay, it's more I call it spicy, or it's more intense, and it has a certain kind of shape to it. And moving that light around a little bit could change how this situation occurs on your subject. It could bite a little more into the cheekbone. It could fill out the forehead a little bit more. It could reach up into the hairline a little bit higher, depending on how you place it. So all of these units, they take on different tonal value as you move them around your subject. Okay, so think about those things when you're doing the assignment. It may seem a little tedious or technical at first, but as you get those images plugged into your worksheet, hopefully you're going to start to see a very predictable pattern of variation. Okay, and it's 360 degrees. So once you're familiar with how your light renders moving in space around a 360-degree arc with the subject at the center of all those vectors, you can apply that to any subject that it's going to be in the future. A car, a bottle of wine, a group of people in the center of a room. It's all, the concept is going to remain the same. It'll just evolve or get bigger or get more constrained, as your subject changes. So that's the intent behind the assignment. Okay, and as I said, it's going to take you a couple of hours to shoot it all and move that light around. And you're probably going to need another hour or so to pull out all your screen grabs for your still images. And then what I'd like you to do is I would like you to fill in the section of the worksheet that's asking for your thoughts on how you saw your results, and if and what things or traits did you notice in the course of doing this assignment. Now, this assignment should inform you on a number of levels about lighting and about how it applies itself to the human face. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to these, and they can be subtle changes in how the light is mapping itself, right? And a subtle change could be the difference between what we would consider really successful lighting of a subject, or very, very accurate or acute. In other words, the lighting matches the feeling of the scene dynamically. There's a can be a subtle difference between the lighting working and the lighting not working, and could be simply the movement of a light. Okay, so try it out. You can download all the PDFs from the LMS, and if you're more comfortable working in the Keynote, I believe there's a Keynote for the worksheet as well. Some folks don't have the PDF editors, and so they require the Keynote so that you can add your still images to the worksheet. Either way, shoot me an email if you have any problem with the worksheet at all, or if you're still unclear about what you're supposed to be doing. You can send me an email, send me a phone call, leave me a message. I'll get back to you. You've got till Sunday night at midnight to turn this in on time, and that's 3 days from now. So hopefully you can spend some time with this. Don't rush through this assignment, folks. This is more than anything else, your job in this assignment is to observe what happens, because you don't have to move much. You got to move one light. So I want you to really observe the changes and think about how you can apply those changes, or the value of those changes, in your own compositions. Okay? And I would stress that you find a suitable human subject for this, because it's not a real successful project if you use a stuffed animal or a dog. Unfortunately, hairy animals, light doesn't play with the features of the face as effectively on a hairy animal as it does on a human being. Okay, and quite frankly, most dogs look better frontlit than anything else. So using a puppy for this is probably not a good idea. They won't sit still. They won't give you all the time you need, and the lighting is really all wrong for your pet dog. So I would suggest holding out for a suitable human subject who's willing to sit for you and help you explore this concept. All right, that's it. That's all I've got for you. Again, give me an email, give me a phone call if you have any problems. I'll be here waiting for your results and your questions. Okay, folks? So have a good evening and enjoy the weekend, and show me something great and let's talk about it. All right, guys? Enjoy.